The stars around Earth burned with the light of 1,000 alien ships. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching the massive fleet approach through the viewing screen. Her hands gripped the metal railing so tight her knuckles turned white. "How many ships do we count?" she asked her weapons officer. "Over 3,000, Captain. Maybe more hiding behind the moon." Lieutenant Torres wiped sweat from his forehead. "They have battleships bigger than our space stations." Sarah nodded slowly. The Galactic Empire had finally come to finish what they started 2 years ago. Earth's colonies were gone. Mars was a dead rock covered in glass. The moon bases were empty ruins. Only Earth remained, and now only the Indomitable stood between humanity and complete destruction. The Empire had been clear in their messages. Humans were a disease that needed to be removed from the galaxy. They said humans bred too fast, thought too differently, and asked too many questions. The Empire ruled 3 million worlds with perfect order. Humans brought chaos wherever they went, Captain. "We're getting a transmission from the lead ship," said Communications Officer Park. "Put it on screen." The view screen flickered and showed an alien face that looked like a cross between a lizard and an octopus. Admiral Zixthak of the Imperial Fourth Fleet had 6 eyes that never blinked and tentacles that moved when he spoke. "Human vessel, I am Admiral Zixthak. You will surrender immediately. Your species has been judged unworthy of existence. Comply now and your death will be quick." Sarah stepped forward. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Ship Indomitable. We reject your surrender demand. Earth is under our protection." The alien admiral's tentacles writhed with what might have been laughter. "You have 1 ship. We have 3,000. Your mathematics must be very poor." "Our math is fine, Admiral. We're just better at creative problem solving." "Impossible. You are primitives who only learned space travel 300 years ago. We have ruled the galaxy for 1,000 years. You cannot win," Sarah smiled coldly. "Want to bet?" The transmission ended. Admiral Zixthak turned to his bridge crew. "Begin the attack. Destroy that ship quickly. I want to finish this and return home for the victory celebration." The Imperial fleet moved forward like a metal cloud. Their ships were sleek and silver, built for intimidation as much as war. Each one could destroy a city with a single shot. Together, they could crack a planet in half. The Indomitable was different. It looked rough and ugly compared to the Imperial ships. Humans had built it in secret over 5 years, using technology that Earth scientists claimed was impossible. The ship was black as space itself, covered in strange angles and surfaces that seemed to bend light around them. "All hands, this is the captain," Sarah announced over the ship's communication system. "The Empire thinks we're going to roll over and die like good little animals. They think we're primitive and weak. Time to show them what humans can really do." She turned to her crew. "Bring us about. Set course directly for their center formation." "Captain, that's suicide," Torres said. "They'll blast us apart." "No, they won't. Trust the ship. Trust each other. Trust humanity." The Indomitable turned and accelerated toward the Imperial fleet. The alien ships immediately opened fire. Thousands of energy beams and plasma missiles streaked toward the human ship. Then something impossible happened. The weapons hit the Indomitable and simply vanished. The ship's shields didn't just stop the attacks, they absorbed them. The shield generators analyzed each weapon in microseconds, learned how it worked, and adapted to make the next shot completely useless. "Impossible," Admiral Zixthak screamed. "Our weapons are perfect." "They destroy everything." His tactical officer, a creature that looked like a giant spider, clicked nervously. "Admiral, their shields are somehow learning from our attacks. Each shot makes them stronger." "That cannot be. The physics do not allow such technology." But the Indomitable kept coming. It flew through the wall of weapons fire like it was flying through empty space. As it got closer, its own weapons began firing back. Human plasma cannons lit up the darkness. But these weren't normal weapons either. Each shot seemed to know exactly where to hit for maximum damage. Imperial shields that had protected their ships for centuries collapsed after just a few hits. "How are they doing this?" Zixthak demanded. "Unknown, Admiral. Their targeting systems appear to be analyzing our shield frequencies and adjusting their weapons in real time." The Indomitable flew into the middle of the Imperial formation. It spun and twisted like a dancer, firing in all directions. Every shot found its target. Every target exploded. "All ships concentrate fire on the human vessel," Zixthak ordered. The remaining Imperial ships turned their weapons on the Indomitable. The combined firepower could have destroyed a small moon, but the human ship's shields had now seen every weapon type in the Imperial arsenal. Nothing could touch it. Worse, the ship began to move in ways that broke the rules of space combat. It seemed to teleport short distances, appearing behind Imperial ships before they could react. It phased through solid matter, flying directly through the hull of enemy vessels and tearing them apart from the inside. "Admiral, we've lost 800 ships," reported the spider creature. "How long has this battle been going on?" 17 minutes, sir." Zixthax stared at the tactical display in horror. In 17 minutes, one human ship had destroyed a quarter of his fleet. This was supposed to be a simple extermination mission. Instead, it was becoming a massacre. "Send a message to Imperial Command," he ordered. "Tell them we need reinforcements." Lots of reinforcements. On the Indomitable's bridge, Sarah watched the Imperial ship struggling to hit her vessel. "Status report. Shields at 110% and climbing," Torres reported with amazement. "Every time they hit us, we get stronger." "Weapons are operating perfectly," added the gunner. "The targeting computer is learning their weaknesses faster than they can adapt." "Good. Now let's show them what human engineering can really do." Sarah pressed a button on her command chair. Deep in the ship's core, machines that humanity had spent 5 years building began to activate. The Indomitable's experimental quantum drive came online. Suddenly, the human ship wasn't just fighting the Imperial fleet. It was fighting them from multiple positions at the same time. Quantum echoes of the Indomitable appeared throughout the battle space, each one solid and real and deadly. "Impossible," Zixthax screamed again. "They're in 12 places at once." "Admiral, recommend immediate retreat," urged his tactical officer. "Retreat? From primitives, never." But even as he spoke, more Imperial ships exploded. The quantum echoes of the Indomitable were everywhere, striking from impossible angles using weapons that shouldn't exist. Sarah opened a communication channel to the entire Imperial fleet. "Attention, Empire ships. This is your first and last warning. Leave Earth space immediately or we will destroy every single one of you." Admiral Zixthax's 6 eyes burned with rage. "You cannot defeat the Empire. We rule 3 million worlds." "You ruled 3 million worlds," Sarah corrected. Past tense, because that ends today. The Indomitable and its quantum echoes pressed their attack. Imperial ships exploded like fireworks across the dark sky. In 30 minutes, the most powerful fleet in galactic history was running for their lives from one human battleship. As the surviving Imperial ships fled toward the edge of the solar system, Sarah smiled grimly. The Empire thought this was the end of humanity. Instead, it was just the beginning of the end for them. "Set course to follow them," she ordered. "It's time to take this fight to their territory." The Imperial retreat lasted exactly 4 hours before Admiral Zixthax made his biggest mistake. He decided to make a stand at the Proxima Defense Station, a massive military base that protected one of the Empire's most important supply routes. Captain Sarah Chen watched through the Indomitable's sensors as the surviving Imperial ships joined with fresh reinforcements. The station itself was enormous, 10 miles long and bristling with weapons that could destroy entire fleets. "Captain, we're detecting over 5,000 ships now," reported Lieutenant Torres, "plus the station's main gun. Intelligence says it can punch a hole through a planet." Sarah nodded calmly. "And they think that's enough?" "Honestly, Captain, it should be enough to destroy anything," said Dr. Martinez, the ship's chief scientist. "What we did back at Earth shouldn't have been possible according to known physics." "That's because we threw known physics out the window 5 years ago," Sarah replied. "Time to show them what impossible really means." On the defense station's command center, Admiral Zixthax studied tactical displays with growing frustration. His science officer, a tall blue alien with 4 arms, presented analysis reports that made no sense. "Admiral, we've analyzed the battle recordings from Earth. The human ship violated at least 17 fundamental laws of physics." "Explain." "Their shields don't just stop energy. They convert it into more shield power. Their weapons change frequency in real time to match enemy weaknesses. Most impossibly, they appeared to exist in multiple locations simultaneously." Zixthax slammed a tentacle on the control panel. "Technology cannot break the laws of physics. The Empire's greatest scientists have proven this." "With respect, Admiral, perhaps the Empire's scientists were wrong." The statement hung in the air like a forbidden curse. For 1,000 years, the Empire had built its power on the belief that they understood the universe better than anyone else. Their technology was perfect because their science was perfect. Now one human ship suggested that everything they knew was incomplete. "Impossible," Zixthak muttered. Begin the attack. Destroy them with overwhelming force. The combined Imperial fleet opened fire with every weapon they possessed. Energy beams thick as starships lanced out toward the Indomitable. Missile clouds dense enough to block out stars streaked through space. The human ship met this storm of destruction head-on. But this time, something different happened. The Indomitable didn't just absorb the attacks, it began to change. The ship's hull rippled like liquid metal, rearranging itself into new configurations. Weapon ports opened in impossible places. New types of shields flickered into existence. What is that thing doing now? Zixthak demanded. It appears to be evolving, Admiral. The ship is rebuilding itself in real time to counter our weapons. The blue alien's 4 hands worked frantically over sensor controls. Admiral, I'm detecting massive quantum fluctuations around their vessel. They're not just adapting their technology, they're rewriting local spacetime to make their adaptations possible. That's impossible. Yes, sir. Completely impossible. They're doing it anyway. The Indomitable fired back with weapons that had never existed moments before, beam weapons that passed through matter as if it wasn't there, striking directly at enemy power cores. Missiles that split into smaller versions of themselves, multiplying until each original missile became 1,000 seeking warheads. Sir, they just destroyed 200 ships with weapons that we can't even classify, reported the tactical officer. But the most terrifying development was yet to come. The Indomitable began to move in ways that hurt to watch. It folded space around itself, stepping from one location to another without crossing the distance between. It existed at multiple points along its flight path simultaneously, leaving quantum afterimages that were somehow just as real as the original. How are they moving like that? Zixthak screamed. Dr. Martinez stood at his station aboard the Indomitable, monitoring readings that would have driven Imperial scientists insane. Captain, the quantum drive is performing beyond all theoretical limits. We're not just bending space-time anymore. We're convincing reality that our ship has different properties than it actually does. Meaning? Meaning we can be in multiple places at once because we've made the universe believe we're bigger than we are. We can phase through solid matter because we've convinced local physics that we're made of different materials. We can absorb unlimited energy because we've temporarily redefined what energy means in our immediate area. Sarah smiled. And the Empire thinks their 1,000-year-old science can compete with human creativity. The battle became increasingly one-sided as the Indomitable demonstrated new impossible abilities. It created duplicates of itself that lasted for minutes at a time. It fired weapons that traveled backward through time to hit targets before the trigger was pulled. It generated shields that protected nearby space itself, creating safe zones where Imperial weapons simply refused to function. Admiral, we've lost 3,000 ships, reported the spider-like tactical officer. Recommend immediate retreat to Imperial core space. No. Zixthak roared. Activate the station's planet killer weapon. If we can't defeat them with conventional weapons, we'll use the most powerful weapon in the galaxy. The Proxima Defense Station's main gun began charging. Energy readings climbed to levels that could crack worlds. The weapon was the Empire's ultimate deterrent, never used because nothing had ever required such destructive force. Weapon charged and ready, Admiral. Fire! A beam of pure destruction lanced out from the station toward the Indomitable. The energy in that beam could have boiled Earth's oceans. It was the concentrated power of a dying star. Focused into a weapon that could destroy anything in the known universe, the beam hit the Indomitable directly. For a moment, space itself seemed to hold its breath. Then the impossible happened again. The Indomitable absorbed the planet killer beam just like any other weapon. Its shields flickered, analyzed the new energy type, and adapted to it in seconds. But more than that, the ship seemed to grow stronger from the massive energy input. Impossible, Zixthak whispered. Admiral, the human ship is now showing power readings that are off our scales, reported the science officer. They just absorbed enough energy to power the entire Imperial fleet for a year. The Indomitable turned toward the defense station. When it fired back, the beam that emerged was not just the returned planet killer energy. It was that energy improved, refined and enhanced by human engineering. The Proxima Defense Station, pride of the Imperial military, was cut in half like paper. All ships retreat, Zixthak finally ordered. Full speed to Imperial space. But as the Imperial ships turned to flee, Captain Sarah Chen made a decision that would change galactic history forever. Pursuit course, she ordered. It's time to take this fight to their home territory. Captain, Dr. Martinez said quietly, if we pursue them into Imperial space, this becomes something much bigger than a defensive action. Good, Sarah replied. The Empire has spent 1,000 years terrorizing the galaxy. Time someone terrorized them back. The Indomitable followed the fleeing Imperial ships into hyperspace. Behind it, the wreckage of 5,000 alien vessels and one impossible space station drifted among the stars. In Imperial command on the capital world of Zixnai, emergency signals began arriving. Reports of impossible human technology, stories of physics being rewritten in real time, news that the Empire's most powerful weapons were useless against a single enemy ship. For the first time in 1,000 years, the rulers of the galaxy felt something they had almost forgotten existed. Fear. The news traveled faster than the Indomitable itself. Across the Empire's vast communication network, impossible reports spread from world to world. The humans were coming. The humans had weapons that broke the laws of physics. The humans had destroyed the Proxima defense station with a single shot. On the Imperial capital world of Zixnai, Supreme Commander Veltar called an emergency meeting of the High Council. The massive alien stood 12 feet tall, with armor-plated skin and claws that could cut through steel. He had ruled the Empire for 300 years and had never known defeat. Explain to me how one primitive ship has destroyed 7 Imperial fleets, he demanded. Admiral Zixthak, who had managed to escape with only 3 ships from his original force, trembled as he spoke. Supreme Commander, their technology is beyond our understanding. They violate the fundamental laws of reality itself. Impossible. Our science is perfect. Our weapons are invincible. With respect, Supreme Commander, perhaps our science is not as complete as we believed. The statement caused angry murmurs around the council chamber. For 1,000 years, Imperial superiority had been built on their advanced understanding of physics and technology. To suggest they were wrong about anything was close to treason, but the evidence was undeniable. 7 fleets destroyed, the Proxima station gone, and now long-range sensors showed the human ship moving deeper into Imperial space, heading directly for major population centers. Where are they going? Veltar asked. Unknown, Supreme Commander, but their course suggests they plan to attack Kethmarai, our primary shipyard world. Kethmarai was one of the Empire's most important planets. Massive orbital shipyards produced hundreds of warships every year. Its loss would cripple Imperial military production for decades. Send the 7th and 9th fleets to defend Kethmarai. Deploy everything we have. But Captain Sarah Chen had no intention of attacking Kethmarai directly. Instead, the Indomitable dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the system and began broadcasting on all frequencies. Attention, people of Kethmarai. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Ship Indomitable. We are not here to destroy your world. We are here to offer you freedom. In the planet's orbital shipyards, millions of workers from dozens of different alien species stopped what they were doing. Most of them were slaves captured from conquered worlds and forced to build ships for their own oppression. The Empire has told you that resistance is impossible. Sarah's voice continued. They have said that their rule is eternal and their power absolute. We are here to prove them wrong. On the planet's surface, Governor Thexkai, a fat slug-like alien, screamed orders at his communication officers. Cut that transmission. Jam all frequencies. But the Indomitable's communication systems were as advanced as its weapons. The signal could not be stopped. People of the galaxy, Sarah's message continued, the Empire's power comes from your belief that they cannot be defeated. But today we show you proof that they can be beaten. Today we show you that freedom is possible. The human ship began demonstrating its capabilities for all to see. It moved through the system's asteroid belt, using its impossible weapons to carve perfect sculptures from floating rocks. It phased through the system's moons, proving that solid matter could not stop it. Most importantly, it approached the defending Imperial fleets without fear. The 7th and 9th fleets opened fire with everything they had. The display was visible from the planet's surface, thousands of energy beams lighting up space like a deadly fireworks show. But the Indomitable flew through the attacks as if they were gentle rain. Its adaptive shields turned every weapon against itself. Its quantum drive allowed it to exist in multiple places at once, striking from impossible angles. In 20 minutes, both Imperial fleets were destroyed. Impossible, Governor Thexkai whispered, watching the tactical displays. But something even more impossible was happening on his planet. In factories and shipyards across Kethmorai, slaves from hundreds of conquered worlds were laying down their tools. The Empire's power had always seemed absolute because resistance was hopeless. Now resistance looked very possible indeed. "Sir, we're receiving reports of work stoppages across the planet," reported Thexkai's aide. "Order the security forces to shoot anyone who stops working." "Sir, the security forces are requesting clarification on their orders. Many of the guards are conscripted soldiers from conquered worlds themselves." The cascade effect that Captain Chen had hoped for was beginning. The Empire's control depended on fear and the belief that their power could not be challenged. Once that belief cracked, the whole system became fragile. "Attention, Governor Thexkai," came Sarah's voice over the communication system. "We have analyzed your planetary defenses and found them inadequate. We could destroy your command center with a single shot. Instead, we offer you a choice." "And what choice?" Thexkai asked reluctantly. "Order the immediate release of all slaves and political prisoners on your world. Establish a provisional government that represents all species equally. Do this and we will leave your system in peace." "And if I refuse?" The Indomitable appeared directly above the governor's palace, having somehow passed through the planet's defense shields without triggering them. "We have downloaded your planetary computer networks. We know the location of every prison, every slave compound, every secret police facility. We can free your people with or without your cooperation. Choose wisely." Thexkai looked at his tactical displays. His planetary defenses showed the human ship as being in 12 different locations simultaneously. His weapons could not lock onto a target that existed everywhere and nowhere at once. More importantly, his own people were turning against him. Security reports showed massive demonstrations in every major city. The slaves who built the Empire's ships were demanding freedom. I agree to your terms," he said finally. Within hours, the slave compounds of Kethmorai were opening their gates. Political prisoners saw sunlight for the first time in years. Workers who had been forced to build weapons for their oppressors were suddenly free to choose their own destiny. The news spread across the Empire's communication networks faster than Imperial sensors could stop it. One human ship had not just defeated Imperial fleets, it had liberated an entire world without firing a shot at civilian targets. On a dozen other worlds, similar uprisings began. The Empire's rule had always depended on the belief that resistance was impossible. Now that belief was shattered. Supreme Commander Admiral Zixthak reported to Veltar on the capital world. "We're receiving reports of rebellions on 17 worlds. The humans have somehow inspired massive civil unrest across the Empire. How is this possible? They're not just attacking our fleets, sir. They're attacking our credibility. Every time they defeat us, more worlds believe that the Empire can be overthrown." Veltar studied the strategic displays with growing alarm. Red warning lights showed rebellion activity across half the Empire. Worlds that had been loyal for centuries were suddenly demanding independence. "Where is the human ship now?" "Unknown, sir. They seem to be moving randomly through our space, striking without warning and disappearing before reinforcements can arrive." But Sarah Chen's strategy was not random at all. Using the captured Imperial navigation data, the Indomitable was striking at carefully chosen targets. Each victory provided more intelligence about Imperial operations. Each liberated world provided new allies and resources. Most importantly, each impossible victory proved to the galaxy that the Empire could be beaten. "Sir," Zixthak continued nervously, "there's something else. The humans are broadcasting technical specifications for some of their technologies. Basic shield enhancements, weapon improvements, communication encryption. They're giving away military secrets that could help other species defend themselves." "What? Why would they do that?" "I don't know, sir. It doesn't match any logical military strategy. But Captain Chen knew exactly what she was doing. The Empire maintained control by keeping other species technologically dependent. By sharing human innovations, she was giving the galaxy's oppressed peoples the tools they needed to fight back." "Captain," Dr. Martinez reported from his station aboard the Indomitable, "we're receiving communications from rebel groups on over 50 worlds. They're asking for technical assistance and military support." "Good," Sarah replied. "It's time to turn this from a one-ship operation into a galaxy-wide revolution." "Orders, Captain?" Sarah looked at the star charts showing the vast empire that had terrorized the galaxy for 1,000 years. Red markers showed rebel activity spreading across dozens of systems. For the first time in centuries, hope was spreading faster than fear. Set course for the Theta sector. Intelligence says the Empire has a major prison world there. Time to free some more friends. The Indomitable disappeared into hyperspace, leaving behind another liberated world and the growing realization that the impossible had become inevitable. The Empire was falling apart, one world at a time. 3 months after the first battle at Earth, Supreme Commander Veltar stared at a holographic map that showed his empire dissolving before his eyes. Red zones marked open rebellion, yellow zones indicated failing loyalty. Only a few green zones remained under complete Imperial control. "How many worlds have we lost?" he asked his intelligence chief, a thin gray alien with enormous black eyes. 237 worlds in open revolt, Supreme Commander. Another 400 showing signs of civil unrest. Our garrison forces are requesting reinforcements that we don't have. Veltar's claws scraped against the metal of his command chair. In 3 months, one human ship had accomplished what no enemy had managed in 1,000 years. It had made the Empire's citizens believe that freedom was possible. Where is the human ship now? Unknown, sir. Our tracking systems show it in multiple locations simultaneously. Either they have learned to be in several places at once, or they have built additional ships that are identical to the first. But the intelligence chief was wrong on both counts. The truth was far more terrifying. The Indomitable had indeed learned to exist in multiple places at once. But more than that, it had begun sharing its impossible technologies with the growing rebellion. On 100 different worlds, alien engineers were studying human technical specifications and building weapons that shouldn't exist. Captain Sarah Chen stood in the conference room of a captured Imperial base on the world of Nexus 7. Around the table sat representatives from 20 different species, all former slaves or oppressed peoples who had joined the growing alliance against the Empire. "The situation is developing faster than we hoped," she reported to the diverse group. "Imperial control is collapsing across the Outer Rim territories, but we need to be careful. A cornered empire is dangerous." Commander Thax, a tall insectoid alien who had once been a slave in the Imperial shipyards, clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. "Captain Chen, our people are grateful for the freedom you have brought us, but many wonder, what happens after the Empire falls? Will humanity simply become the new rulers?" It was a fair question. For most of galactic history, freedom meant simply changing which species held power over the others. The idea of true equality between species was almost unthinkable. "That's not what we want," Sarah replied. "Humans believe that all intelligent species deserve self-determination. We're not here to rule anyone. We're here to make sure no one can rule anyone else against their will." Dr. Zira, a blue-skinned alien scientist who had been rescued from an Imperial research facility, spoke up. "The humans have kept their word so far. They share their technologies freely. They don't demand tribute or territory. This is unprecedented, but can it last?" asked General Corks, a bear-like alien whose homeworld had been enslaved 50 years ago. "Power corrupts. We've seen it happen 1,000 times," Sarah nodded. "You're right to be suspicious. That's why we're not going to take power when this is over. We're going to help you build something new, a galactic council where every species has an equal voice." The alien representatives looked at each other with mixtures of hope and disbelief. The concept was revolutionary. Throughout galactic history, there had always been rulers and subjects, masters and slaves. The idea that different species could work together as equals was almost too radical to imagine. "How do we know the humans won't change their minds?" asked Commander Thax. Before Sarah could answer, alarms began sounding throughout the base. Her communication officer's voice crackled over the intercom. "Captain, long-range sensors are detecting a massive Imperial fleet approaching. Estimated arrival in 6 hours." Sarah stood up calmly. "How massive?" "Over 10,000 ships, Captain. It looks like they're throwing everything they have left at us." The alien representatives around the table looked terrified. 10,000 ships was enough firepower to sterilize an entire star system. "Captain," General Cork said urgently, "you should evacuate. Save your ship. You've done enough for us already." Sarah smiled. "General, you still don't understand what humans are really like. We don't abandon our friends." She turned to her communication officer. "Send a message to all human vessels and allied ships in this sector. Tell them we have a chance to end this war today. Captain, we only have the Indomitable and maybe 50 captured Imperial ships that our people are still learning to operate," Dr. Zira pointed out. "Sometimes 50 ships are enough. if they're crewed by people fighting for their freedom instead of their masters. 6 hours later, the largest Imperial fleet ever assembled dropped out of hyperspace around Nexus 7. Supreme Commander Veltar himself led the attack, determined to crush the rebellion before it could spread further. 10,000 ships against 50, he announced to his fleet commanders. Today we remind the galaxy why the Empire rules and rebels die. But as the Imperial fleet moved into attack formation, something unexpected happened. The space around Nexus 7 began to shimmer and twist. The Indomitable appeared not in one location but in 50 different places simultaneously, each appearance solid and real. Impossible, Veltar breathed. They've created duplicates of their ship. His science officer's tentacles writhed in confusion. Sir, quantum analysis suggests these are not duplicates. Each ship appears to be the same vessel existing in multiple quantum states simultaneously. That violates everything we know about physics. Yes, sir. The humans appear to have convinced reality itself that their ship can be in 50 places at once. But the true surprise was yet to come. The 50 captured Imperial ships that had seemed so outmatched began to change. Human engineers had spent 3 months retrofitting them with impossible technologies. Adaptive shields flickered to life around each vessel. Weapons that learned and evolved began charging. Sir, the tactical officer reported in horror. The captured ships are showing the same impossible readings as the human vessel. They've somehow upgraded our own technology beyond our understanding. The battle that followed was unlike anything in galactic history. 50 ships that existed in quantum superposition faced 10,000 ships built with traditional physics. The result was not even close to fair. Imperial weapons struck targets that phase-shifted out of reality before the energy could hit them. Human weapons fired shots that traveled through folded space-time, striking targets from impossible angles. Most devastatingly, the adaptive technologies meant that every Imperial weapon became useless after its first shot. Sir, we've lost 4,000 ships, reported the tactical officer after just 30 minutes of fighting. How is this possible? Veltar demanded. Sir, I believe the humans have done something unprecedented. They've shared their most advanced technologies with other species and helped them understand concepts that our greatest scientists declared impossible. Veltar stared at the tactical display in growing horror. His massive fleet was being destroyed by technologies that shouldn't exist, operated by former slaves who shouldn't understand advanced physics. Sir, his communication officer announced, we're receiving a transmission from the human ship. Put it through. Captain Sarah Chen's face appeared on the main screen. Behind her, Veltar could see alien crew members from a dozen different species working together at control stations. Supreme Commander Veltar, this is Captain Chen. I'm offering you the same choice I've offered your other commanders. Surrender now and we'll guarantee safe passage for your surviving crews. Never. The Empire does not surrender to primitives. We're not primitives anymore, Supreme Commander. And neither are our friends. The galaxy has learned that intelligence and creativity matter more than brute force. You're fighting an idea now, not just a ship. What idea? The idea that all species deserve freedom. The idea that cooperation is stronger than domination. The idea that the universe belongs to everyone, not just the species with the biggest guns. Veltar looked at his tactical displays. His fleet was down to less than 3,000 ships and losing more every minute. Around him, his bridge crew, aliens from conquered worlds who had been forced to serve the Empire, were beginning to look at each other with new understanding. Sir, his tactical officer said quietly, perhaps we should consider the captain's offer. Traitor. Veltar roared. Not a traitor, sir. Just tired of fighting for an empire that considers my people inferior. One by one, the bridge crew began to stand down. Across the fleet, similar scenes played out as forced conscripts from conquered worlds realized they were fighting their own liberators. Sir, the communication officer announced, I'm receiving surrender signals from our remaining ships. The crews are laying down their weapons. Veltar stood alone on his bridge, surrounded by crew members who were no longer his to command. For the first time in 300 years, the Supreme Commander of the Galactic Empire was powerless. The Empire is finished, Sarah's voice said gently from the communication system, but that doesn't mean your people have to suffer. There's room in the new galaxy for everyone, including former Imperial citizens who want to live in peace. Veltar's claws slowly retracted. Around him, former enemies were helping each other understand alien technologies and impossible physics. The bridge of his flagship had become a symbol of the new galaxy, different species working together instead of against each other. I surrender, he said finally. The last Imperial fleet had fallen not to superior force. 6 months after the battle at Nexus 7, Captain Sarah Chen stood in the observation deck of New Harmony Station, watching the construction of something that had never existed before. A meeting place designed for dozens of different species with completely different biological needs. The station orbited a neutral star system, built by volunteers from over 200 worlds. Some sections were filled with methane for gas-breathing aliens. Others maintained crushing pressure for deep-sea species. Radiation-shielded areas accommodated silicon-based life forms, while climate-controlled gardens provided comfort for species that needed growing plants to feel at home. Captain, the council chambers are ready for the final session, announced Commander Thax, the insectoid alien who had become one of Sarah's closest allies during the war. Sarah nodded and made her way through corridors designed to accommodate everything from tiny, fairy-like creatures to massive crystalline beings that communicated through harmonic vibrations. The Universal Translation Project, another human innovation shared freely with all species, made conversation possible between beings who had never been able to speak to each other before. The council chamber itself was a marvel of cooperative engineering. The aquatic delegation sat in water-filled transparent tubes. The high-gravity species occupied reinforced platforms that could support their massive forms. Energy beings existed as controlled plasma fields in specially designed containment areas. For the first time in galactic history, truly every intelligent species had a voice. The final vote on the Galactic Charter of Rights, announced Speaker Zira, the blue-skinned scientist who had been elected to lead the new government. All species in favor of establishing permanent galactic law, guaranteeing freedom and self-determination for all intelligent life. Lights, sounds, chemical signals, and harmonic frequencies filled the chamber as over 300 species voted. When the translation computers finished processing all the different forms of communication, the result was unanimous. The charter is adopted, Speaker Zira announced. By this act, we declare that never again will one species rule over another. Never again will slavery exist in this galaxy. Never again will might alone determine right. The celebration that followed was unlike anything in recorded history. Species that had been enemies for centuries worked together to build a better future. Former slaves and former masters learned to see each other as equals. The Empire's rigid hierarchy was replaced by something organic, flexible, and based on mutual respect rather than fear. Dr. Martinez approached Sarah as she watched the celebration. Captain, the Council has made a formal request. They want humanity to lead the new galactic government. Sarah shook her head. That's exactly what we're trying to get away from. The whole point is that no single species should have more power than any other. But humanity proved that it could be trusted with power. You could have conquered the galaxy instead of liberating it. Which is exactly why we can't take charge now, Sarah replied. Power corrupts even with the best intentions. The new galaxy has to succeed without depending on any one species. She paused, looking out at the stars where former imperial worlds were learning to govern themselves. Besides, we have our own problems to work on. It was true. Earth itself was still rebuilding from the Empire's attacks. The other human colonies were gone, their populations evacuated to safety before the final Imperial assault. Humanity had saved the galaxy, but at enormous cost to themselves. What will you do now, Captain? Asked General Corix, the bear-like alien whose species had been among the first to join the rebellion. Go home, Sarah said simply. Help rebuild Earth. Maybe explore some of those star systems we never had time to visit properly. Will humans stay involved in galactic affairs? Sarah smiled. We'll be around. We'll share technology, participate in trade, maybe help with scientific research, but we won't try to be the galaxy's police force. That's a job for everyone working together. Former Supreme Commander Veltar, who had been given a minor advisory position on the Council despite his past, approached hesitantly. The massive alien had spent the last 6 months learning about cooperation instead of domination. Captain Chen, I wanted to thank you for defeating you, for showing mercy afterward. My species expected to be enslaved or exterminated. Instead, we've been invited to help build something better. Sarah nodded. That's what humans mean when we talk about cooperation. Everyone deserves a chance to do better, even former enemies. The final session of the Constitutional Council concluded with the signing of trade agreements, research partnerships, and mutual defense pacts between species that had never seen each other as equals before. The Empire's rigid military hierarchy was replaced by voluntary cooperation networks that could adapt to any challenge. "Captain," Commander Thack said as the formal ceremonies ended, "there's something the Council wanted to give you before you leave." He led her to a special chamber where representatives from every species in the galaxy had gathered. In the center of the room stood a simple monument, a piece of metal from the original Indomitable, surrounded by symbols from every known language and communication system. "What is it?" Sarah asked. Speaker Zira stepped forward. "It's a reminder. This piece of your ship will remain here forever, to help future generations remember that freedom is possible. That cooperation is stronger than domination. That intelligence matters more than force." The inscription, written in hundreds of languages, read simply, "In memory of the day impossible became inevitable. We also wanted you to know," Zira continued, "that we've named this system after your homeworld, the Sol system, in honor of the species that taught the galaxy to dream of freedom." Sarah felt tears in her eyes as she looked around at the diverse group of beings who had become not subjects or allies, but friends. 6 months ago, most of them had been slaves. Now they were the government of a free galaxy. "There's one more thing," Commander Thack said. "We've been monitoring deep space communications. There are other galaxies out there, other empires that might someday threaten freedom here. If that day comes, will humanity help again?" Sarah looked out at the stars through the chamber's massive viewing window. Somewhere out there, other species might be suffering under the rule of beings who believed that might made right. Other worlds might be waiting for someone to prove that cooperation was stronger than conquest. "If freedom is threatened anywhere," she said finally, "humans will be there. Not to rule, but to remind everyone that impossible things are only impossible until someone does them." 3 weeks later, the Indomitable departed New Harmony Station for the long journey back to Earth. But it wasn't traveling alone. Ships from dozens of species accompanied it, carrying goods, technology, and friendship to humanity's devastated homeworld. As Sarah watched the stars wheel past the viewing screen, Dr. Martinez joined her on the bridge. "Any regrets, Captain?" Sarah thought about the question seriously. The war had cost millions of lives. Earth was in ruins. The human colonies were gone. But across the galaxy, billions of beings were breathing free air for the first time in their lives. "None," she said finally. "We set out to defend Earth. We ended up liberating the galaxy. Not a bad day's work, and what's next for humanity?" "Same thing that's next for everyone else," Sarah replied. "We learn, we grow, we explore, and we help each other. The Empire thought that some species were born to rule and others to serve. We proved them wrong, and if another empire rises someday?" Sarah smiled as she looked out at the stars where free peoples were building a better future together. "Then we'll prove them wrong too. That's what humans do best. We take impossible situations and make them possible." The Indomitable and its escort fleet disappeared into hyperspace, carrying with them the knowledge that the galaxy had fundamentally changed. The Age of Empires was over. The Age of Cooperation had begun, and somewhere in the vast universe, on worlds that had never known freedom, beings looked up at the stars and dared to hope that impossible things might be possible after all. The human battleship had done more than destroy an empire. It had given the galaxy something far more powerful than any weapon: the knowledge that freedom was worth fighting for, and that even the most impossible dreams could come true with enough courage and creativity. The war was over. The real adventure of building a free galaxy was just beginning, but to